Rome was in danger. A rogue senator named Catiline was plotting to overthrow the government, and only one man had the courage, poise, and relentless eloquence to prevent revolution. That man was Marcus Tullius Cicero, and his speeches against Catiline, fated to become a bane of Latin students in future centuries, illustrate the power of news in ancient Rome. Rumor had brought the plot to Cicero's attention, so it was fitting that he sought to combat it with the power of public opinion. At a meeting of the Senate, he accused Catiline of fomenting rebellion, knowing that a network of informers, gossips, and couriers would carry his words to every corner of the city. His strategy worked all too well. Catiline fled Rome, but the news of his conspiracy generated so many rumors that Cicero had to reassure the Roman people in a public address the following day. Cicero's response to Catiline illustrates the remarkable, and potentially dangerous, efficiency with which news traveled around Rome. Most of the city's 1 million inhabitants lived in dense, close-knit neighborhoods with strong social bonds. When an important or interesting bit of information reached one of these neighborhoods, it roared through the crowded apartment blocks with the speed of a summer fire. Getting the news was an informal process in ancient Rome. Certain matters, including, as anyone who's been to Pompeii knows, candidates for political office, were publicized with street-side graffiti. But in a society whose literacy rate likely hovered around 10%, most people learned by listening. During public assemblies, festivals, and games at the Colosseum, orators and heralds addressed the people, informing them of Roman victories in the provinces, distributions of free grain, and any other news that served to confirm the greatness and generosity of Rome's leaders. The crowd's response, enthusiastic or otherwise, was part of the process. Members of the crowd sometimes bantered with the herald, or even with the emperor himself. Less formally, news spread through the city on countless interlacing threads of rumor and gossip. The hub of the hubbub was the forum, where the stentorian voices of lawyers and politicians rang through the forests of columns, and semi-professional rumor mongers lingered around the rostra, voices all but lost in the ceaseless buzz and hum of conversation. Fired by this engine, news could spread very quickly indeed, especially under threat of disaster or war. Rumor, like public addresses and even graffiti, was a potent source of news. But the most interesting means of disseminating information, and to our eyes the most modern, was the daily gazette, the newspaper of ancient Rome. Even today, it can be hard to get the news you want. The problem, as in the gossip-filled Roman Forum, tends to be too much information from too many sources. If you start your day by browsing through social media, you know the feeling. That's why I like Morning Brew, the daily email newsletter that summarizes the latest developments in business, finance, and tech with pithy and often witty articles. In just a few minutes of browsing each morning, I've encountered everything from giant catfish to pizza-making robots, alongside up-to-the-minute discussions of the stock market and trends in big tech. Morning Brew is completely free, and signing up takes only a few seconds. So if you're interested in business, finance, or tech, there's no reason not to subscribe. To get started, just go to morningbrewdaily.com/toldenstone or click on the link in the description. From the late Republic to late antiquity, the Roman government published the Acta Diurna, or Daily Gazette. Each issue began with the statistics for the day's births and deaths. These particulars were accompanied by summaries of important court cases and decisions of the Senate. News relating to the imperial family was given a full treatment, even if the emperor and his clan were away from Rome, as was the progress of imperial building projects. The Gazette might describe Roman victories, along with any skirmishes or marches that the government saw fit to publicize. But it was the human interest section of the Gazette, which, one suspects, most Romans followed most avidly. Here were reported the oddities and prodigies of the day. Examples mentioned in our sources include the tragic tale of a dog who stayed loyal to his master's corpse, a bloody brawl at a funeral, and the story of how an architect straightened a leaning portico with a system of pulleys. The flavor of the Gazette is captured by a parody in a Roman novel, in which the clerk of an obscenely wealthy freedman reads the daily report for his master's estates. After rattling off the statistics for births and harvests, he mentions, among much else, the crucifixion of a slave, a destructive fire, and the messy divorce of a freedwoman who had been caught having an affair with a bath attendant. The Gazette was produced by a small group of minor officials, assisted by reporters known as notarii, who jotted shorthand notes at court cases and prowled the forum in search of tips. We don't know how many copies were made of any given edition of the Gazette, but the number was probably quite small. A few copies were sent to archives and libraries, where they could be consulted by historians and other researchers. The rest were posted on public notice boards to be read, recopied, and proclaimed. Since, as mentioned earlier, most Romans were illiterate, the contents of the Gazette were broadcasted by street criers, or praecones. Their patter was part of the daily din on the streets of Rome. One author compared an especially strident orator to someone bawling the Gazette in your ear. Although we don't know how they read the news, the epitaph of one crier may provide some idea. He was modest, trustworthy, and honorable. That is all. Scribes, often the slaves of wealthy families, copied the Gazette as soon as it was posted and sent their facsimiles to the homes of the Roman elite. Since there was strong demand for news from the capital among Romans living in the provinces, merchants and couriers carried the Gazette to every corner of the empire, and even to the legions on the frontiers. As Cicero once said when describing a document he had publicized, "There is no place on earth where the name of the Roman people is known that it did not reach." You might have said the same of the Daily Gazette. If you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting Told in Stone on Patreon. You might also enjoy my book, Naked Statues, Fat Gladiators, and War Elephants. Thanks for watching.